All right, so we're gonna take a little tour of our place up here in Idaho today. Thought y'all might be interested in some of the behind the scenes type stuff where I produce a lot of the videos that I do, especially the how-to type stuff. So we just got back up here to our place in Idaho just a few days ago. We've been in Florida since Christmas, so 6 months or so we've been down there. Got back up here and the place looked like an absolute jungle. We had a gal staying here while we were gone, but she was not an outdoor person, and so did very, very minimal yard work. And so yesterday we spent pretty much the whole day just cleaning up the stuff, mowing grass, pulling weeds out of the garden, had Coy out there mowing. Did a couple of time lapses just of cleaning the place up, but there's still a lot of work to do, but we got a lot done yesterday. Gonna go get some fuel for a tractor and continue on today. But we bought this place in 2010, moved in here, and basically have just worked on it and tried to build it up ever since then. Our closest neighbor is probably, I don't know, 2-3 miles down the road. But we've got 20 acres here and lots and lots of wildlife. Here in north central Idaho, we have both whitetails and mule deer, and we see them all the time. We've even seen bears and elk and moose from this place. But our house here was built in 1954, I think. It's just a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, just a small little farmhouse. I think it's only about 800 square feet. But we've actually extended the porch a little bit, did a covered deck on it. And all of that stuff we did with salvaged lumber or lumber that we cut here off of the place. I borrowed a sawmill, a little band mill from one of my neighbors. And then we cut some trees, dropped some trees from the woodlot here off of the place. Sawed all of that stuff up here last spring, and if you've followed along with me on Instagram and even some of the stuff that I posted on Patreon, you will have seen some of the pictures, and maybe I did some video on that as well. But we've been letting that lumber cure or dry since that time, and now it's dried and ready for us to use. But some of the stuff that we used for the covered porch was that, and then like I said, we salvaged some lumber. We actually ended up demoing a barn just down the road here on one of our neighbors' places that was built in, I want to say the 40s, but we took all that lumber, all that old lumber from that, and we've got it stacked up under the barn, and we're going to use that to remodel the front deck and stuff like that, and I'll show you some of that. So the front porch extension here, it's not anywhere near done. Just yesterday we took all of those tiles off the front of the house, and we're going to end up using a bunch of that shiplap that we got off that barn that we salvaged. But it's really cool lumber. It's probably 8-inch by 3/4-inch boards, but were probably milled in the 40s, and you can still see all those old saw marks in there. So we're just going to sand the tops off of those to really accentuate and bring out those saw marks. But I think that'll look really cool on the front there, on the inside of the porch. But once we get all that stuff done, it'll be a really cool place to just kind of hang out. We're gonna have to do an outdoor kitchen in there and just make it a cool little living space. But the rest of the house, I think what we're gonna end up doing is taking all those asbestos tiles off there, which is a crappy job, but I think we're gonna end up taking all of those off there and just redoing the outside with cedar shakes, which I really like the looks of that. It looks really cool and rustic. And of course, the shop. Any of you that's followed along with any of my bow building stuff, you've seen the shop, inside of the shop a lot, and it's a disaster right now. I don't want to go in there. When we first moved in here, all these fields were in a crop rotation, and the standard crop rotation around here is wheat, 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 and more wheat. And they'll throw a legume like garbs or something in there every now and then. But we took it out of crop rotation. We planted to a grass forb mix, and forbs are just broadleaf flowering plants like that. And then around the edge of our property, we've planted a windbreak. We did that through working with the Natural Resource Conservation Service and enrolling that strip of land around our place into a type of CRP that helps cost share on that type of stuff though. But anyway, we'll walk down here and look at some of the shrubs and some of the other stuff that we've done for wildlife improvement. This is actually one of the little pieces of the windbreak kind of hedgerow that runs around the entire place. And this one's made up of golden currants and choke cherries. And we put a weed mat down, and they actually did really well. Some of these choke cherries are only 3 years old and they're already over my head. So you see all this tan grass out here in the fields. This is something that I've been battling since we bought this place. It's an invasive species called ventonata, but if you're in the West, you're familiar with cheatgrass. It's a similar type of thing to cheatgrass. It's an annual that grows very early, but cheatgrass is actually very good, highly nutritious forage, but it's only good for wildlife for a very short time because it grows really fast and it cures out super fast. Ventonata is not good for anything. Ventonata is full of silica, and so when an animal grabs a mouthful, they just spit it out immediately. I have never seen anything eat ventonata like they will eat cheatgrass. And so people in the West thought cheat was bad, but this stuff is really bad. Canada thistle. Stuff's actually really good for moths and butterflies and pollinators, but man, it just kind of takes over everything. There's some bees over there on it. This this grass that we're walking through here. This is meadow foxtail. It's kind of grows in wet areas. Not super great forage, not really good for nesting game birds or anything like that. It's just, I don't know. If I could replace it with something else, I would do it. But the problem is when you spray it out and try to plant something else, this stuff is just so aggressive. It's a sod former. It's hard to get anything else established where that stuff wants to grow. But I wanted to show you these little aspen trees here. Like I said, when we first moved into this place, this was all farmed. And when we took it out of production and put it into hay, we stopped cutting these things. All these little aspen trees that you see here, if I can get panned around here, all of these are suckers off these bigger aspen trees back here. And so slowly but surely, this aspen stand that we've got back here is kind of expanding out, which is exactly what I want. This tree here, this shrub, you can see all these little red berries. That is a hawthorn. They're pretty, maybe not this exact species, but hawthorns are pretty widely dispersed throughout the North America. And they're great wildlife trees. It's got big old nasty thorns all over it, you can see. But these berries, one of the great things about hawthorns is these berries will, this thing squared up. These berries persist late in the winter. So when there's nothing else around, all the quail and pheasants, things like that, first of all, they have a great place to sit up in those real thick, thorny branches, protected from predators. But then, you know, they have those berries right there too. So kind of a secure little place to do some dining. So this little thing behind me here is just a bunch of old fencing materials that I've brought out here in the field to try to create a little sanctuary type thing for, mainly for cottontails, but the quail will use it too. We have California quail around here. But I love hunting cottontails with my bow. Unfortunately, we really don't have a very good population right here around our place. There's some other areas with better cover that do have good rabbit populations, but I'm trying to, through creating little things like this, I'm trying to increase those sanctuary areas, because that's really what cottontails need. They need really kind of dense, thick little areas where they can get in, be protected from predators, and then just kind of venture out, venture out from there to do some foraging. And so I'm gonna build more of these things kind of around the place. And then also, I've got the idea of having people bring, after they're done with their Christmas trees, having people bring their Christmas trees and just kind of stacking those things up in long rows and just making kind of hedgerows or windrows out of those old Christmas trees. And I think that should, you know, create enough cover for the rabbits so that they can actually increase their population. We do have a lot of predators around here, horned owls, coyotes, but the rabbits are one of those things, and upland game birds, that if you have the habitat, you can also have the predators, because you know, you're not going, well, shit, I don't want to go into that. So we've got a couple of apple trees, cherry, some plums, things like that in our orchard. The moose are, as I mentioned earlier, they're kind of a pain in the butt because they come through here in the wintertime and they just mow down on them. I need to put a fence around the whole thing. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Lots of stuff to do. How you what? All right, do it. All right, buddy. Go for it. Go for it. Whoa! So any of you that follow along on my YouTube channel, you'll know that I do a lot of hunting, and wild game is what we eat when it comes to meat. I mean, that's pretty much it. But we also, well, I shouldn't say we, Liz mostly does, grows a big garden, does a lot of canning and stuff. I think one year she put up like 300 pounds of tomatoes. Pasta sauce and salsa, and I mean just cans, all sorts of stuff. And so a lot of our grocery shopping is just walking out to our pantry and grabbing whatever we want. All right guys, so I just wanted to put up this video just to gauge interest in this type of format. I thought you guys might want to look around, kind of behind the scenes type stuff. But if you want to look at anything more in depth or a closer look or whatever, just leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys thought of this video. And one thing that might be of interest to some of you is I've got a buddy coming up later this week that wants to do a veggible conversion on his Cummins. And that's something I did with my truck. I actually built my truck from scratch. Took 2 different trucks, stripped them all the way down to the frame, built one truck out of the 2. It's got a 12-valve Cummins in it, and I run it on vegetable oil, grease that I get for free from the restaurant down the road. Didn't have to do any modifications to the motor at all. But anyway, that's another video. If you guys want to see that, just leave me a comment and let me know, and we can build a video around that. But anyway, this is kind of our place. So we'll see you next time.